Mommy and Me Treats. Today we are going to make a blackberry cobbler, my great-grandmother's recipe, and my mom's grandmother. Hope you like it.
Okay, Joanne, since this is Mommy and Me Treats, Mom is helping teach her daughter how to cook. All right, so babe, these are my notes. Joanne, you're going to type on the comments, right? All the ingredients and the best measurements that we could figure out?
Yes.
Okay, so, darling, what is the first thing we need to do as female chefs with long hair?
We need to put our hair up so it does not get in our food.
Okay, we may not be chefs, but we can pretend for a few minutes. Okay? All right, so put your hair up if you haven't already. We wanted to be sure to cover that, and I thought if we just had our hair up already, we would forget. And then one other rule of the kitchen that we have is this recipe is a potential recipe that anybody of you can make on your own. And so what you need to do is make a deal or a promise with your parents or whomever is in charge that you will do the cleanup. Because every great cook, chef, home cook, whatever, does a nice job of cleaning up after themselves. You need a clean kitchen, otherwise you can pass on germs, and we all know right now that we're in quarantine, we want to be extra careful of that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what did you just whisper that you wanted me to say that you can say?
We should all wash our hands before, so
Go ahead.
so we don't get the germs
You first.
in our
And I am going to share one more insight or thought. And since we are not going to aim for perfection, I find that kind of silly when it's Mommy and Me cooking. We're aiming for tasty, for delicious, and we're going to show you our fails. Not everything is going to work out, and we're just going to get it real. That's really our goal, is to be real in the kitchen with you so that you know it's okay if mistakes are made. It's okay if it didn't work out, because to be honest, that's how cooks, chefs, whomever, grandparents, that's how everybody learns to be better in the kitchen. You learn by those mistakes. Am I right?
It doesn't need to look good. It just needs to be tasty and delicious.
That's right. But even then, sometimes we're going to forget an ingredient, even though we thought we followed the recipe, right? Or we might add too much of something because we forgot we already put it in. We're not going to edit that out. So we hope you find that interesting. Now, this recipe, I really am counting on us not making a mistake. Because this is Mimi's recipe, and
Yeah.
have we made this a lot?
Yeah.
Yes, we have. So we think it's a great first recipe, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Joanne, so why don't you start with the dry ingredients and let everybody know how you measure. Not only is this way cleaner, but it's also better for your baked goods.
So
Real quick. And explain why we also already pre-mixed the dry ingredients.
So we already pre-mixed the dry ingredients.
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them. The flour and sugar.
Because why?
You
You said it takes too long to do all the measuring, and people don't want to sit there and want to watch you measure, right?
Yeah.
So you wanted to make this more efficient, yes?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm just
Okay.
putting it in here until it's full. There. Now what I'm going to take is a knife, and I'm just going to spread it across and get all the extra down the side back into the
bag of
into the
flour.
bag.
Yeah.
And there you have your 1 cup that you can now put into your bowl.
Okay. Joanne, I'm going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees right now.
Okay.
Why don't you add a teaspoon of baking powder?
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to whisk that together, aren't we?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're going to, just like I demonstrated, take the 1 teaspoon, take that knife and get all the extra back in the bag or tin of baking powder. And then we're going to add that to the dry ingredients.
Okay, sweetie, I'm gonna need a half of a teaspoon of salt mixed in.
Okay.
And how are you gonna mix the dry ingredients?
We're gonna whisk them together. For the salt, it's a type of like can or tin that we're gonna pour instead of dipping or scooping. So you gotta be really careful that you don't pour too much, especially since it's salt. So that.
Okay.
That's the salt. And now that we're done adding all the dry ingredients, we are going to whisk it.
A fork?
This is a pastry cutter.
You can use a fork too, Joanne.
You can also use a fork. We couldn't find a whisk, so it's the closest we could get.
See, we're getting it real.
Together. Yeah. Can't find a whisk, just use what you got. You want to mix it really well so that one part of the crumble on the blackberry cobbler doesn't have like a really floury taste, and then another have like the salt and baking powder, because you really want it all combined with the sugar so that one's not too sweet, like one side. You want it like an even like amount of each everywhere.
That's right. Okay, Joanne.
All right, that's pretty good.
Why don't you? We are to
Cut
show
the
how.
butter?
Yeah, you can cut 6 tablespoons, but
Okay,
let's show
6
how safe we
tablespoons.
are and how you hold the knife. Okay.
Hold it like this.
You fist it. You don't stick your finger on the blade, do
No,
you?
no.
It could slip. You could cut yourself. So you fist it so you can handle it a lot easier. And it's a while to get used to that, though, doesn't it? It doesn't feel natural. You want to stick your finger, yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead and carefully watch your other fingers, right? Sometimes you got to
So
knuckle.
I'm gonna cut it right here.
Because what's each
about-
line represent?
Each line represents a tablespoon.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna
Saw.
saw, yeah. So
All right.
this is the extra 2 tablespoons. I'm just gonna
And
put
we're going to use that
aside.
for something else.
Yep.
Now what I'm going to do, love, is I'm going to cut it's cold butter. You want cold butter for this part of the
Yes, cold
recipe.
butter.
I'm going to cut these into smaller pieces. And you're going to take that same pastry cutter, actually, because the whisk is in the dishwasher. It was very efficient that you use the pastry cutter so that we don't dirty as many dishes.
What you're gonna do.
Let's go. You're going to start to show them how we do this. But I got to get all my paper off. All right, there's one.
So you're just gonna
And I'm going to pop them in, okay?
mix the cold butter in with the pastry cutter, just cutting it and getting it all combined.
You have to muscle it, don't
You
you?
really do.
Do you want the stool?
No, I think I got it.
Okay. When you want me to take over, just say
Yeah,
the
because
word.
it's hard when you're not tall enough to reach over the counter and really get muscle in it.
Tell them you use the stool sometimes.
Yeah, I use the stool sometimes because it's easier. I think you should try, Mom.
All right, I'll do it. I'll do it. And what's another way? Before we do that, show the other way that we can cut it. Because not everyone's going to have a pastry pastry cutter at home.
So
Show-
you're going to take 2 knives.
It's kind of my favorite way of doing it, isn't it? I love the 2
This is
knives.
actually really hard.
It's ice cold. That's
Oh
why.
my
It's
gosh.
ice cold. All right, go ahead. I'll hold this up while you do my favorite way.
So you just kind of
Stand
cut
back
it.
this way so people can see.
cut it like into cubes.
Here, I'm going to move this back so they can see
Okay.
how you're doing it. The knives go in opposite directions. It's kind of fun.
So that you're cutting it into cubes and you're combining the flour while you're kind of really cutting the butter in it. This is kind of hard
Okay, that's
because
good
it's
enough.
cold,
I'll,
but
I'll,
yeah.
I'll do the rest. Okay?
Yep. Okay. Okay. You're stronger than me.
Well, I'm also a little bit taller.
Just a little bit.
Just a teeny bit. But I learned how to cook the same way that you're learning. In the kitchen.
Because your mom and your
Both
grandma.
my mom and grandmother and my great grandmother. As a
Really?
matter of oh yeah, Mama helped. So as a matter of fact, I would go blackberry picking with my brother and Mama. And I was always excited, no matter how much those thorns got me. I could have cared less. I didn't even care if I got bee stings. Do you know why?
Why?
This was my favorite thing that Mimi made. And I could not wait to get back. I used to beg Mama to go picking blackberries. And the funny thing was, she was like, maybe not today. I'm like, please. I could eat this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Another nice thing about this blackberry cobbler and this very recipe that Joanna's going to post, you could use other fruits. You could do a mixed berry cobbler. You could do a blueberry cobbler. I mean, some people could take a recipe just like this to make a peach cobbler.
I love peach cobbler. That's also good, but I like blackberry best.
Yeah, so it's flexible and you can play with it. Some people like to add a hint of cinnamon. I like to keep it very straightforward, not add the cinnamon. So it's a great base, I think, for a cobbler.
Wow, you're really doing it.
You need about 5 cups of your fruit. You could do 4 if you wanted. You could easily get away with 4. But I prefer 5. Sometimes I stretch it to 6. I like to do 6. I know, I'm making a mess. That's why we have to clean up after ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is good enough for me. I've got it here. You want to show everybody the kind of crumb that I got?
Yeah,
Here,
so...
give them an idea of about where you're going to go. Okay, whoops.
So it's kind of like crumbly over here. They're like really small bits of
About
butter.
pea size, right, Joanne?
Yeah, about pea-sized
Roughly
bits of
pea
butter,
size.
like that size.
But I did use a cast iron skillet. You don't have to.
You don't have to. You can use a
set
pot.
out a couple other examples. You can use a Pyrex dish,
Yep.
or you can use a dish like this. This one has a lid. So yeah, you've got options as to the kinds of dishes. I just sometimes like the cast iron when I'm not making as much. When I make more, I like to use the long glass dish.
Oh, to get the juice.
To loosen it up,
To loosen
right?
the juice, so when you juice it, it's not like as hard.
So show them. So you get a little bit more on it.
rubbing and
Show them on the counter how we
So
do
just-
that.
kind of rub it everywhere.
All right, so let's see. Once you get that going, do you remember how much sugar we're going to add?
We're gonna add 1 cup of sugar to the blackberries,
I'm going to pour it in my cast iron skillet with my berries.
and equally around, so that you don't have like a lot amount of sugar on like in like
Mm-hmm.
the middle and start getting around the edges. So you want an equal amount of sugar all around your blackberries.
And I'm going to need a 1/4 cup of cold water, 2 tablespoons.
2 tablespoons of cornstarch.
In that 1/4 cup of water, I don't always.
Oh, you add it to the water? Why do you do that?
Sometimes I sprinkle 1 tablespoon over the fruit mix
Why do you
and then-
add it to the water?
because it dissolves and it helps it cook better.
So if you add the cornstarch to the water, it'll thicken the water?
Well, you add the water to your berries, but
Well,
you're
yeah, I know,
mixing
but
your
like-
cornstarch first. Oh, I went ahead and mixed. You want to show everybody your measuring?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So, all
Okay.
right, let's go.
So, gonna take.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
There's a little of the flour on it.
Here's what I'll do. Look.
You're gonna. Oh, can't really see, so I'll turn this around. You're gonna take this and just carefully scrape it so it gets an even amount of cornstarch. So that's 1 tablespoon. I like to be like a perfectionist, so you get the measurement exactly right. All right, so that's 1 tablespoon.
Okay, I'm going to dissolve this one. I need 1 more tablespoon, okay?
Okay.
Mommy and me cooking isn't the most clean, is it, Joanne?
No, it's messy and you have a lot of fun.
That's true. That's true all the way around.
Okay. So we've got our 2nd tablespoon.
Okay, go ahead. I'm going to need a tablespoon of lemon juice.
So you're just gonna meet about right at the middle. And we're just gonna cut in half.
Joanne, do you
So
remember
we've
why?
cut it in
Oh,
2
sorry,
halves.
go ahead.
Yeah?
Do you remember why we add cornstarch to the berries?
The thicken them.
Yeah, like more of a
So it doesn't turn into like mushy or
Like
'cause
a
you want
liquid.
you want the blackberries kind of like still whole, and you don't want them to be like a jam. You don't want them mushed.
This will be cooked down. You don't want blackberry soup. This will be
Is that
cooked
even
down.
a thing?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you could create it, but this cooks them down. But what it does is it keeps it more like
I
a
love
pie
lemons.
filling. It's almost like a pie filling. So I have to boil this. Sometimes you stir, sometimes don't you?
Yep.
And I may have you when I add the lemons. When you're stirring, can you talk about your safety? What you are thinking? You don't have anything that could lean over the stove to start on fire, right? Nothing.
You don't like hover over it. You want to kind of like stay back, and make sure your arm's kind of high up over it so you don't burn your arm on the skillet because it'll get really hot. And you just want to make sure that you're safe.
Yes.
And you don't get hurt.
And you don't get your, like you said, your arm, your hand on the pan. You don't touch it. You have everything that has a long handle. Mm-hmm. And in my case, I'm supervising you, aren't I?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So while that boils, we're going to get more hot water. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the other hot water, Joanne. Do you remember that we added to the biscuit mix that we just made, or the topping mix, so that we have kind of a dropped consistency?
Kind of like it's not yet a dough, but it's more like a crumble. That's
and we're gonna make
still
it,
a little
we're gonna make it like a soft dough. Almost you would compare it to a cookie dough, almost.
Yeah, almost, but you want it more to be crumbly, because with the butter, it really kind of like, if you added more butter, it would bind it together like a real dough.
Now the reason I am going to handle this part is I got to get a 4th cup of boiling water, and I'm not in the mood to have you do it right now.
So I'm just gonna put the spatula to the side.
And that boiling water, you're going to see it steaming.
The camera can't see it steaming.
It will, once I get there, I think. Is that gonna? Yeah, look, you can see it.
Wow, it's like clouding.
So what it's gonna do is it's gonna get your butter softer, and you're gonna be able to mix that. Okay, babe.
Okay.
And I dropped some of that.
Okay. Be careful.
I'm gonna make sure I got all the butter. Speaking of, keep going. I don't want to cut my fingers though.
And
so
I don't
want to
burn you with the boiling water, so it's gonna really bind it together.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna literally drop it into the blackberry cobbler, like by spoonfuls. Yeah. We're gonna drop it in for the topping, and then we're gonna cook it in the oven for 25 minutes. The reason you cook the berries on the stovetop first with your cornstarch is they will all cook better at the same time with the topping, the dough for the biscuit mix, so to speak. I'm calling it a biscuit topping because it's the only way I can describe it.
It's like a crumble-ish.
Not really, babe, because look, show everybody your consistency. That's good enough, by the way. Show them.
It's like, really soft, but it's like, see, it's like,
yeah,
close to a dough.
Yes, it is a dough.
Yeah, it is.
It's just a soft dough. What you want is you literally want the berries, the cobbler part, to cook at the same time that the dough cooks. Yeah, so it's equal. So you got to warm them up on the stovetop. You got to bring it all to a boil, and you put that boiling pan of berries, once you put the topping on, in the oven.
Exactly.
So if you're using one of these Pyrex dishes, what I do then is I boil the blackberries in a saucepan, and then I pour that saucepan, and I work quickly. I pour the saucepan into my glass dish, put the topping on, pop it in the oven, and that works. It works like a charm. So I'm gonna do that. I'll show everybody, but here you kind of see how beautiful that looks. Look at that. It sticks to the spoon too. So you know it's a dough.
It's a dough. Yep.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Looks like it's boiling, the blackberries.
Joanne, all you do is just literally drop it in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want the whole thing covered, because what happens, and Joanne, what I'll do is I'll pick.
So look at that. Oh, it looks so good.
So it doesn't. You're not going to cover the whole cobbler with your dough. That's just not what you want to do.
It's just a little bit so that it looks.
We cook it for 25 minutes. The kitchen. So we'll see you when we pull it out, and we'll show it to you.
All right.
Yum! Look at that, yummy.
Gosh, it looks so good. We just cooked it perfectly. The topping, or like the biscuit, whatever you want to call it, is just done. It's not too overcooked and too brown, but it's just the right amount. I just can't wait to eat it.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna try it.
We are, but wait. This is like a small little taste. This isn't a full serving.
We're not gonna eat it all.
But Joanne, what do we always say? Every cook has to taste their food before serving. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, I guess darn, we gotta have a little taste. Just a small
Bye
one.
me.
Okay, just a little bit. And make sure it's yummy before we give it to anybody. See, look at how baby taste that is. That isn't even
Very
a real
small.
taste. Yeah. Nobody's gonna notice
I'm
that,
just
but
blowing it so I don't get burned.
me too. But you would not want to be surprised if you serve something that didn't taste good. So you got to find a little way. Even if on a cake it's the very bottom, I take that little finger that's left in the pan, I wipe that and I lick it because I just want to make sure it tastes all right. Okay, that's good.
We made it delicious.
We did. I like to serve it sometimes with vanilla ice cream. It's delicious with vanilla ice cream. I mean, that is just nirvana.
Or whipped cream.
Yes, I'm more of a vanilla ice cream fan
Me
than
too,
a whipped
but
cream.
like whipped cream.
But people do.
We could do like a blackberry cobbler sundae with whipped cream, ice cream,
Right.
and like blackberries on top instead of cherries.
It's a little extreme, but okay.
Sounds so good.
This is the end of our episode. You saw the finished product. It's not hard to make. I think this is easy, a beginner recipe with a little assistance in the kitchen with the boiling and the putting in the hot oven and the taking out. All right. Well, thanks. Bye, Joanne. Tell everyone bye.
Bye.